All right, welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. This is the time and place for the Grand Forks Growth Fund JDA meeting. Item number 1 is welcome and roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Osowski. Here. Berg. Here. Lenski. Here. Friedels.
Here.
President Sandy.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
And Mayor Buczynski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, action items. 2.1 is a PACE loan request for PS Industries.
Thank you, Chairman Weigel, members of the authority. Last week, the Growth Fund Committee met, and there's a PACE loan request for PS Industries Incorporated. I'll turn it over to Kevin Hatcher with EDC to introduce you to the project and the company.
Thank you, Chairman Weigel, Mayor Buczynski, members of the Jobs Development Authority, Kevin Hatcher, Business Development Manager at the Grand Forks Region EDC. Asking on the request of this PACE loan, local portion of $88,011 for PS Industries. We're pleased to have owners Daniel and Grat Satcham here, who is readily available if there is any company-related questions, also with Scott Berge, the CFO. Background about the company, PS Industries, homegrown Grand Forks-based manufacturing company, industrial doors, safety, fall protection products, flood protection barriers, and risk mitigation products. They do the design, manufacturing, and engineering of these services in their Grand Forks facility here. Began in 1974, so 50 years strong here in Grand Forks, so congratulations to that company as of last summer here, and has grown significantly over the years. Most recently, one example will be expansion of their industrial park building from 104,000 to 180,000 square feet back in 2019. For this project in particular, they're expanding their flood protection market by an acquisition from a Miami-based company with 20 years experience in that flood protection flexible flood membrane product. The acquisition will help PS Industries capture a growing and critical flood protection market. Example, of course, in the areas that are very prone to flood and hurricanes, such as Florida area there. The acquisition will bring complementary products to PS Industries in Grand Forks, in their manufacturing facility here in Grand Forks, absorbing the contracted orders with the opportunity to accommodate future growth. So this project is purchasing the company's business assets related to the flood barrier product line, including product patents, IP, manufacturing equipment, and some inventory with the contracted orders that I mentioned. For the PACE details, this total project is $3,068,000. The PACE subsidy that we're utilizing is to buy the interest rate down from 7.25% to 3.5% from a $2,454,000 note from Choice Bank for the acquisition of those business assets. The owners of the company, there'll be a contributing equity portion of $614,000 roughly. The request that, as I mentioned, was $88,011, and that's going to leverage that Bank of North Dakota grant portion of $163,449. This will be, the PACE loan here locally will be deferred for 60 months, then we'll follow with 12 equal monthly installments. And the security behind the loan will be a subordinate blanket UCC on the business assets of PS Industries, along with personal guarantees from the owners, Daniel Satcham and Grant Satcham. And we have that loan value demonstrated here at a healthy 26.23%. So I open the floor for any questions regarding this request here.
Thank you, Mr. Hatcher. Comments, questions? Is there a motion?
Do you need the public hearing?
I'll open the public hearing on this item. Anybody like to speak on this item? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. We have a motion to approve by Osowski, second by Lunsky. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item 2.2, Children's Museum land transfer. Mr. Phelan.
JDA President Weigel, members of the Jobs Development Authority. Exciting project in front of you. Attached to the agenda is last week's special city council meeting presentation from the Children's Museum. Also attached is the current agreement the city council has approved regarding the site of the Children's Museum at the Choice Health and Fitness location. And then finally, there's a red line version that includes it at the Alaris Center site this evening. So also on the agenda later in the city council meeting is the indoor sports and aquatic complex discussion along with the Children's Museum, and there's an associated motion in there that will accompany this motion in the JDA. So with the JDA, and I'm going to have Mr. Gossett go through the red line details, but what we're asking you is to have the JDA accept a transfer of what we're saying right now is about 4 to 5 acres. We're not sure what the Children's Museum exactly will encompass when it does move forward through to final design and construction, but that's what we're saying at this point in time. We've shown you the areas on the map. It's in the southeast corner of the site, of the Alaris Center site. That would be the location. And so we're asking the JDA to accept the transfer, ultimately from the city council later this evening, and then also provide payment back to the city council in the city of Grand Forks for the purchase of that property. And we've gone through this many times because we don't want to intermingle the sales tax that the people voted for regarding the Alaris Center and also the indoor sports and aquatic complex. And so we're planning to use other funds, economic development funds, for this purchase so that we make sure they're not commingled. And so I think we've gone over that several times, but that's the intent of this agreement. And then later we'll pick it up, the discussion at the city council meeting. So with that, Mr. Gosta, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Members of the JDA, I went through this last week with the city council. I'll just briefly go through it. What's been posted already is Mr. Phelan explained, is the current agreement with respect to some funding the city council had approved for the Children's Museum. Again, that's really, there's some construction funding. It's going to be dependent upon them. Actually, it's a reimbursement mechanism. So they'll be in construction. They have to prove they're in construction. Their engineer and architect has to demonstrate the percentage completion that they're at with each reimbursement request. And then there's some additional funding by the city later on. That's the current agreement. If with the present motion, what that would mean is the agreement would be altered, and you should have what I have contemplated, some provisions that will have to be modified. One of which is the JDA now becomes a party to the agreement, because before we were tying some of the funding to the current lease that the Children's Museum has with Alter on the south end of town, and now it'll be tied to a ground lease that the JDA would enter into with the Children's Museum, long-term ground lease that would permit the Children's Museum to build on that 4 to 5 acre parcel. It would provide for, again, if in the event, and my job is to think of what happens if things don't go as well as planned. But the ground lease would contemplate having some transfer of the building that would be constructed by the Children's Museum, then revert back to the JDA only in the event that there was problems in the future. That's kind of a security measure for the JDA with respect to that long-term lease. It'll be a pretty standard long-term ground lease. It allows them to use, and I call it the dirt, so to speak, the land itself. And they wouldn't be allowed to obviously start with respect to their construction unless and until we have their ground lease prepared. So again, the changes are pretty self-explanatory, incorporating the JDA as a party to the agreement and incorporating now this ground lease that would have to be prepared and entered into between the Growth Fund and the Children's Museum. Be happy to answer any questions at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gosted. Questions for Mr. Gosted, Mr. Phelan at this time? All right, we'll open the public hearing on item number 2.2. Does anybody wish to speak on item number 2.2? Please come forward. Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing on item 2.2. Mayor,
I'll move approval.
we have a motion to approve by Mayor, second by Berg. Further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissenting. Is there a motion to
I
adjourn?
move adjournment.
We have a motion to adjourn by Osowski, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, moving right along, we will call to order the Grand Forks City Council meeting for Monday, October 7th, 2024. Get a roll call, please, Maureen.
Weigel.
Here.
Solsky. Berg. Lensky. Friedolfs.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
President Sandy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 1.3, Mayor's announcements. I have a few announcements today. It's been a few weeks, so just highlight a few things. I had a few speaking engagements. I just wanted to thank those groups for inviting me. So September 18th, I was over at the Chamber leadership class, got a chance to speak there. Then also we hosted the League of Cities, September 18th to 20th here, and just heard again and again from cities across the state how great Grand Forks is looking and the positive momentum that we've got. That was good to hear, and also want to thank All Truth for having me over on October 1st. They have their leadership academy, so I went there and spoke to some of their young leaders that are coming up in the organization. Just last Thursday, they had the Valley Senior Living Oktoberfest fundraiser, which was a fundraiser they do for Life Enrichment, their Life Enrichment program over at Valley Senior Living. A great event. If you get a chance to go to that next year, really a packed room. I know Miss Berg was there. She got to witness my abysmal failure in the Stein holding competition, but a lot of German, Czech music, some polka dancing, and just some good food and a good time all around. So if anybody gets a chance next year to be a part of that, I would highly recommend it. And then last Friday, another event that I think Colonel Monroe is kind of highlighting for civic leaders and people in the community that want to get a chance to go out to the base and kind of see what they're doing and talk about missions. They have a bi-yearly, they do a military all-call, so they'll give a presentation and an update at an unclassified level. And then you get to hear about some of the quality of life and some of the issues that they're dealing with their airmen. So that was on Friday, another great event. So I want to thank Colonel Monroe for the invitation to be out there. Coming up this week, pretty exciting, the UAS Summit's going to start at the Alaris Center. That's just grown and grown to record numbers. We've managed to get some pretty amazing speakers. Is it Palmer Lucky is the speaker this year? I forget the company. Dana, what's the company he's with? I feel like Dana would know that one.
Anderwell.
Oh, yeah, Mike would know that. There you go. Anyways,
Come on, man.
I know. Get Mike's out there. That's why he's down there. Now he's kicking off the start of the UAS Summit. So, pretty great event. There'll be, a lot of people in town, both military in the private sector as well. So, pretty exciting. I just did want to highlight two things that are going on. One in our state, and then one obviously down in the southeast. So, certainly have your thoughts and prayers for both. But just wanted to highlight out in western North Dakota. They're dealing with the wildfires, the Canadian wildfires and wildfires out there. So pretty horrible. We're here talking about some really, great positive things that are moving forward. And there's other people that are, dealing with some really horrible things. So I think we need to be really grateful for what we've got. And then I want to just mention the hurricane and the effects of Hurricane Helene, and then the potential of another hurricane, which is named Milton, which is going to be pressing down in the southeast shortly. So, as we see these natural disasters in other places again, I just think we need to be grateful for the sun shining and things looking pretty good here in our community. So that's all I got for announcements. So we'll move on to item 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations.
2.1, the first one, Fire Prevention Week, October 6th through the 12th, and National Chiropractic Health Month, October 2024.
All right, thank you. Fire Prevention Week, I'll do this proclamation quickly. And I think, we can highlight too, I get the updates, I think many of the council members do anytime there's a fire emergency, and it happens all too often, so we need to do what we can to prevent those. So we'll read Fire Prevention Week 2024, whereas the city of Grand Forks is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our state. Whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes and locations are where people are at the greatest risk from fire. Whereas home fires have killed more than 2,700 people in the United States in 2022, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 360,000 home fires. Therefore, I, Brandon Boczynski, Mayor of Grand Forks, do hereby proclaim October 6th to the 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week throughout the city, and I urge all the people of Grand Forks to make sure their homes have working smoke alarms and support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Grand Forks Fire and Emergency Services. And then you can go online, you can see the full proclamation as well. And then the second one, which our firefighters with carrying the load, they probably need this too, National Chiropractic Health Month, October 2024. So whereas the years we live in good health without major chronic illness and disability are known as our health span, along with cardiovascular health, metabolic health, and other factors, musculoskeletal health is an important factor in extending health span. Comprised of the bones, muscles, and joints, the MSK system enables us to remain physically active as we age, and physical activity is one of the most powerful contributors to health and longevity. A strong MSK system helps us to continue working and engage in daily activities as we age, enabling us to maintain independence and continuing doing what matters most. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Grand Forks officially joins the American Chiropractic Association in proclaiming October 2024 as National Chiropractic Health Month. Thank you, everybody. That's it for item 2. So we'll move on to item 3, public hearings and second readings of ordinances.
3.1 is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance relating to franchise fees for Nordic Rural Electric Cooperative.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing first. Anyone here to speak on item 3.1? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, and I know we did have a little bit of language addition. Do you just want to highlight that, Mr. Gosted?
Sure. It actually, the change is highlighted in yellow, and it just provides that if there's a surcharge that the company may impose, it's going to be applied uniformly. The 2% would be applied to everybody at the same rate, and based upon their electrical usage. So,
All right, thank you.
I move approval.
Got a motion approved from Ms. Osowski, second from Ms. Lunsky. Seeing no further discussion. Oh, did I say Ms. Berg? The second was from Ms. Berg. Osowski, Lunsky, Boczynski, we got too many skis up here. But- All right, so motion from Osowski, second from Ms. Lunsky. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
And 3.2 is public hearing and second reading of ordinance relating to franchise fees for Northern States Power.
All right, and then this is just a follow-up from the previous one, and that's the name that Excel is going under, is that correct, in this region? So we'll open up the public hearing on item 3.2. Anyone here, please step forward to speak on item 3.2. All right, seeing no one, the public hearing portion is closed, and open up to council.
I move approval.
Motion approved from Ms. Osowski, second from Vice President Weigel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
3.3, public hearing and second reading of ordinance relating to creation of the Red River Valley Water Supply Project Fund.
All right, thank you. We'll follow the same procedure. Open up the public hearing, item 3.3. Anyone here to speak on item 3.3, please step up. All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion for item 3.3, and I'll open up to council.
Move approval.
Move approval.
All right, we'll give the motion to Mr. Veen and second to Mr. Weigel. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
And finally, 3.4, public hearing and determination of protest on request to vacate portion of Rose Avenue right-of-way 10-foot utility easement.
All right. Thank you. Once again, we'll open up the public hearing portion for item 3.4. Anyone here to speak on item 3.4, please step up to the microphone. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion and open up to council for action. Motion. We got a motion from Ms. Osowski. Do we have a second? Then we'll open up for further. We got a second from President Sandy. And I didn't hear who that was online. Was there a comment online? No, okay. Yeah, any further comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. That will be it for item 3. Now we'll move on to item 4, citizen comments as they relate to action items. So I think Ms. Lundmark got around. If you are speaking on related to the Ultra Sports Complex, this would be the time. So get a sheet into her, and then she'll call up the names. That's the only way you'll be able to speak during this portion. So
I have one card right now for item 5.5, the Ultra Sports Complex, from John Jeffrey.
all right, Mr. Jeffrey, please step to the microphone. Now, this will be slightly different from the public hearing. You'll have just 5 minutes to speak, so we will be cutting your mic after 5 minutes, just so you're aware. All right.
Okay, like
Thank
a presidential debate.
Yep,
Okay,
you're on.
well, Mayor, council folks, you probably know already that I and others think that pickleball is the best thing since sliced bread, and that, it's good for the community, it's good for our health. We just heard the comment with regards to National Chiropractic Month and how, as we age, it's important to exercise. I think that's all a given. Really what I want to take my 5 minutes is to talk about why this is a good decision and why you should feel good about it. I mentioned the last time, I realize every big decision like this comes with risk, right? But the key is not to eliminate risk completely, but to control risk or manage risk. And I think that the council has done that. You've done that both politically and you've done that from an economic standpoint. Politically, you had the referendum. You got 2/3 of the voting population to say yes. Yes to the fact that, for the foreseeable future, every time they spend $100, 75 cents of that is going to go towards this project. Folks put together concept and ideas. The public bought into that. And so in this day and age of divided politics, to get 2/3 of folks all on the same page, in my book, and I think in most folks' book, that's a big win. So you got the public behind you on the project. Secondly, you did your due diligence well before this project started, well before the vote. There was already outside folks working with focus groups and doing a community-wide survey and determining really what the need was and where folks should go on this. And then that's what was given to the public. When those 2/3 of the folks, decided this was a good idea, that was based upon the concept that you've been talking about the last couple of weeks here. And so folks understood, where the site was. They understood what was going to be included in the project. And in addition to that, you've had no shortage of experts. You have your attorneys and your engineers and your architects, and not one, but 2 estimates that came in at a spread of 3%, which, on a $100 million project, that seems to be, huge, that they're confident. Your staff is telling you that you have the bonding capacity for it and that you got the money to proceed, and pay for the infrastructure apart from the $100 million that you're going to raise in the bonding process. You got all true kicking in $10 million. So it seems like, that you've done your due diligence. You've asked the tough questions. And at this point, it seems that it's wise to proceed. And then finally, you are doing this project in phases, as I understand it from the comments last week. So it seems like you're not sticking your neck out for the entire project tonight. It's going to start with the infrastructure, if I understand how this works. And you've already got the money for the infrastructure from other funds apart from this vote. And so you're building something there. You're not going to have no project whatsoever. And so the first step is just to get that site going and to spend the money on streets and curb and gutter and all the things you need to support the Children's Museum and whatever structure you're there. That seems to be a fairly low bar to get started. And then once you do that, I also understand from, if I followed it correctly last week, is that the next step then is bidding on the construction, and at that point, you'll find out, is this a $130 million project or an $89 million project, or how this comes in, but your construction engineers and your architects, they all seem to be confident that you're going to bring it in close to what the estimate is, and if it doesn't come in close to the estimate, I'm not sure, how it works in North Dakota, but in Minnesota, when I used to work with the city council there, bids came in too high, then you just didn't accept the bids. I mean, you went back to the drawing board and, cut some stuff or redid it. So anyway, in conclusion, I just think that this, I saw I'm ready to fill the
Yeah,
mic.
that's going to have to be it. So thank you
Okay,
for your
thank
time tonight, and
Yeah.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Ms. Lundmark, any other comments for item 4 related to citizen comments?
I don't have any others.
All right, thank you. Well, that'll move us right on to action items. We're going to definitely have 5.5 pulled for further discussion, so I wanted council, if there's any other items that you wanted pulled for further discussion. 5.2. 5.4. All right, anybody want 5.1 or 5.3 pulled? All right, so we would look for a motion then to approve the staff recommendations for items 5.1 and 5.3.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion from, was that Friedolf?
That's Friedolf, yeah.
Okay, Mike Friedolf with the motion, second for President Sandy. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. So we got 5.2, 5.4, and 5.5, Ms. Dorstead.
All right, 5.2, plans and specs for project 8722, reconstruction of North 4th Street from 1st Avenue North to 2nd Avenue North.
All right, Ms. Linsky, do you have some comments for item 5.2?
I would like to make a motion to table this item until next week so we can have further discussions.
I'd like to second.
All right, we got a motion, a second. Was there any particular points or any items that you wanted further discussed on there, just so council kind of understands?
No, I think without having Cal, there was some meetings that couldn't be scheduled in time. They're scheduled for this week, so.
Sounds good. That would be a motion to postpone until the next cow. Any
Quick
further
question.
discussion? Yep.
Have we looked at this before, Mr. Phelan?
Council or Mayor Buczynski and Council Vice President Wiley, it's been in front of you for a while. We're near the end of this project at this point. It is scheduled to be bid after the new year as part of generally a North Dakota DOT bid. So we are at the late process after a lengthy period of time that it's been in front of you.
I guess my question, would the 2-week delay cause troubles with the DOT as they're trying to move this project forward, knowing that their bidding schedule is tightening up? Mr. Phelan or Mr. Karenko? Maybe you could.
Defer to Mr. Karenko, who's been the project manager on the project.
Right now with this project, if we were to approve it tonight, we have the potential of it being bid at the January bid opening instead of the February. If we end up pushing it off to next week in the following cycle, we would more likely than not be looking at the February bid opening.
Do we expect any changes? I mean, is there much we can do with this being largely funded by the DOT through the governor's initiatives, essentially?
All of this has to be reviewed and go through the DOT and their design division for review and comment, and then we have to follow up with those and address those as needed.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion on this item? Right now, the motion is to postpone this till the next cow, which would be the 14th. Do I have that correct? October 14th? I guess one more question, Mr. Karenko. Sorry, President Sandy, but just ideally that January would be the best time to bid. Is that what we're expecting financially and just moving the project along? Or what seemed to be the difference between those two bid openings?
All depends on how soon all of this documentation gets into the North Dakota Department of Transportation. They need all of this package put together, all the certifications, the plan set 10 weeks before the bid opening. And so right now we're in that location where if we end up getting it in sooner, we have a possibility of getting it in on that January. Otherwise, we're looking at the February bid opening.
Okay.
Mayor Buczynski, and I don't know what Council Member Lunsky is pondering, but I know there's been discussion with the Blue Zone Group about a mid-block crosswalk, and I'm not sure if that's why we want to delay this or postpone this project at this point in time. I would highlight if we're looking at making dramatic changes in the design of this project, that's going to delay because it's going to have to go through a DOT process. So if there is something significant, before you vote on whether you want to postpone, maybe you would, I don't even know if can we discuss a postponement? But just so we have reflections, I don't think the DOT is going to take the matter, they're certainly going to respect our city council wishes, but if we're asking for significant design changes at this point in the process, I think there will be some questions about why, and after all the various hearings that we've had on the particular project.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Vice President Weigel.
I guess I would ask Ms. Lunsky why, because I look at the project. In September 26, 2022, we received information regarding the urban grant program. November 14th, we had a federal transportation request. July 24th, we approved accepting funding for the project. October 2nd of 23, we approved the cost participation. April 1st to 24, we approved the engineering services agreement. August 19th, we approved the document mechanics, selected an alternative, and now we're here. Seems like it's been 2 years in the making of this project.
Yep, and I'm just asking for 2 weeks so that all parties involved can have all their questions answered. Mr. Krinko wasn't available to meet before this meeting. His available time was Thursday, so I don't think it's fair to the other parties to make a vote before the meeting was possible.
Who are the other parties?
The blue zones, the DDA and Central High School.
Mr. Kranko, one more question.
Yep, then we'll go to President Sandy. Yep, please.
Mr. Kranko, did Central High School know about this project 2 years ago when it was being planned?
Yes, they did. That was, I believe we received a letter of support that we included with the application for this program.
Did the Downtown Development Association know about this project 2 years ago?
That I can't recall.
Okay.
I'd have to look at that. We may have gotten a letter of support from them, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Sounds good. Thank
How
you.
about the mid-block crosswalk you promised was going to be in there? Is that going to be in there?
I did not promise a mid-block crossing was going to be included in the project. I said it would be reviewed. We've reviewed it. There were a number of issues that we saw with it, and so we did not include it with the final design.
So that's why I'd like to have a meeting.
President Sandy.
Mayor, I think Linsky makes a valid point that there are perhaps some people that have other thoughts. Can we just notice a committee of the whole and a council meeting to follow, just in case, so we don't delay? We can do the committee of the whole, and then afterwards, if there are any changes, either way, we can approve something at the committee of the whole using a council meeting next week. And then it shouldn't delay the project.
Yeah, I don't see any issue in that.
Mayor
Mr. Phelan.
Buchansky, I think Dan's got the answer of what we can do, even as a COW.
The committee of the whole has authority to do final action on matters, as long as it's noticed up properly.
Good.
All right, so we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? This motion would be to table this, to postpone this item until the October 14th COW, and placing on that agenda the ability to take final action should that be sought. Is that, you comfortable with that motion, Ms. Lunsky and Ms. Osowski? Okay. All right, why don't we do a roll call vote? Ms. Storstad?
All right. Weigel?
No.
Osowski? Yes. Berg?
Yes.
Lunsky? Yes. Friedolfs?
Yes.
Veen?
Yes.
And President Sandy?
Yes?
Motion passes.
All right, I got motion passing 6-1 with Weigel dissenting, so that item will be postponed until the October 14th Committee of the Whole. We'll move on to 5.4, Ms. Storstad.
All right, 5.4, CPMA amendment for North 3rd Street diagonal parking.
All right. We got Mr. Karenko up there, and Ms. Lunsky, do you want to start? Do you have any comments?
Yep, I just had a quick question about the parking study. Do we know who will do it, and do we have a cost?
We have not gone out for the parking study yet for 4th. So that'll be something that will, depending on the costs, may be handled administratively through department head authority.
Okay, so,
Otherwise, we'll end up bringing it back
okay,
if it exceeds the authority.
I'll make a motion.
We got a motion to approve from Ms. Lunsky, a second from Ms. Osowski. Any further comments from council, comments or questions? All right, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
5.5, Ultra Sports Complex and Children's Museum.
All right, Mr. Phelan, why don't you, if you could just go through staff recommendation and then as well as the motions that would be in front of us, all part of this. We'll start from there, please.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor Buczynski, members of the City Council. The first motion is to approve the community-based agreement for UND athletic facilities, subject to final review and approval of the city attorney. Mr. Gosta will provide an update too. We have been speaking as a follow-up to Council President Sandy regarding extending that agreement up to that 20-year initial and then with a 10-year extension, but he'll follow up regarding that update. Otherwise, again, I think we've met agreement with the Park District, School District, City, and UND, and I think that's an accomplishment that people wanted to see with using all the UND athletic facilities that in part, whether it's been Memorial Village 1, Memorial Village 2, the city has provided tax incentives on those facilities and also has provided infrastructure investment. So I think it's great that we've met that goal to do that. The other part, the second part is to approve the schematic design plan. Currently, right now, the proposed plan is for schematic design. The plan is to include a 50-meter indoor pool, a 25-yard instructional pool, a deep diving well that would primarily serve UND aerospace, indoor turf with sprint track, indoor pickleball with 8 courts. The sports training space that primarily would be, the use would be Grand Forks Park District, would be bid as an alternate. And then there's various support facilities from multi-use program rooms to concessions to spectator seating, facility and aquatic support spaces, administrative offices, and then finally, site support infrastructure. And that's the infrastructure that will serve on the Ultra Sports Complex and would also serve a proposed children's museum. And if a children's museum didn't go there, it would serve another entity in that area. And I'll just highlight what are the support infrastructure components. It's the water, sewer, storm. It's the north-south transportation loop and the associated shared parking lots. That's what's included. What is excluded as part of the site support is 17th Avenue South. The engineering department will handle that separately because that is a classified street that will operate differently than that. That's schematic design. The third issue is to approve the site master plan, traffic study, and support infrastructure plan. We've shown you the site master plan that includes the Ultra Sports Complex. It includes the Children's Museum, and then it, as I just noted, it includes all the various support infrastructure components. It also included a traffic study that showed the ingress and egress from the facility, that showed the parking requirements, et cetera, as part of that plan. We're asking you to approve those plans. Number 4, again, playing off of what you just approved with the Jobs Development Authority, this would approve the transfer of that Children's Museum tract in what we're calling the 4 to 5 acre tract or whatever that ends up being to the JDA. And then obviously drafting the appropriate agreement so that the City of Grand Forks is reimbursed for the City of Grand Forks' investment in that property. Finally, to move forward with design development and construction development is to approve an agreement with JLG Architects at that 6.9% fee that we've previously negotiated with them. The dollar amounts are noted below as part of their amendment to their agreement. And I would just note, JLG is the architect of record in this case, but there's several sub-consultants that are underneath them. JLG is the engineer on the project. We have Martin Mechanical, and there's various others noted sub-consultants that are doing the various work components as part of the project. With that, Mayor, I would ask Dan to follow up on maybe on the transfer of title and then also that community-based agreement with UND.
The transfer title is pretty straightforward. What we're trying to do is to assure that the sales tax dollars that were voted on for the aquatic center are used for that purpose, and so I think some of the funds were used to acquire part of, well, the larger tract where the 4 to 5 acre is located, so the JDA would then reimburse the city so that we're not, as Mr. Phelan said earlier during the JDA meeting, we're not commingling those funds. That's really the easy button of the transaction. The second part, with respect to the UND athletic facility use agreement, the agreement has stayed the same from what I reported last week. It's a methodology for the user groups, really, the school district, the park district, also community-based organizations that have had long-term activities with youth activities, athletics, can be part of it, and a methodology to allow those groups to establish a schedule to use the UND facilities over the course of time. Establishes an annual meeting to do that. The only change from last week is, at the direction of President Sandy, is that this is now going to be a 20-year agreement, and then there'll be an option to renew for another 10 years, so up to a 30-year period of time for this agreement to stay in place. So that was the only other change. We're still waiting for, I've had some discussions with the university legal counsel. I believe they're at the point of agreeing to that type of term. At least the lawyers had thought that would work. Waiting for final approval from UND, but I'm expecting that in the very near future. So that was the only substantive change to the agreement from last week.
Mayor Bochinsky, the one thing we still need to work on is the operation and maintenance agreement to operate the facility. And as we've discussed, we have been in discussions and deliberations with the Park District. I would anticipate an operation maintenance agreement coming back to you to operate this particular facility. And we continue to work on additional sponsors for the facility and above and beyond what we discussed last week with late Jim Freistad and his $500,000 gift to this facility, and then also the J.R. Simplot gift of $75,000 from the Grand Forks, from their Grand Forks facility. So we'll continue to work on additional revenue. The other work that we'll continue to do is work with UND and the school district and the park district on closing on any of the capital funding gaps that we may have as we go through design development and start to work with the CMAR on the various cost estimates. And when and if we do find gaps, we will work with those partners to try to close those gaps as we bring this project back to you in the new year.
All right, thank you, Mr. Phelan. I'll just make a comment, then I'll open it up to council. I think it's a pretty exciting day, 2.5 years worth of work going into it tonight and a chance to move it forward. So I guess my hope is that council would move forward with the staff recommendation. This is what the community voted for, as the gentleman had stated, 2/3 vote. This is what Ulcher donated their money for. This is what Mr. Freistad donated his money for. And I think the good news is we don't have to necessarily make those tough decisions because we don't have all the information. We'll be able to tighten up the numbers to get firm numbers once we get through design development and those construction documents. And there may need to be a tough decision at that point, but I think we should have the information firmed up and move forward with what the community voted for at this point. So that would be my hope in coming out of the discussion. So with that, I'd open it up to council for their comments. President Sandy, please.
So I'd like to take a few of these issues separately. I'd move approval of the land use agreement with UND Athletics. I'd approve the site master plan, and I'd approve transfer title of the 4 to 5 acres of the Jobs Development Authority. I think we probably will have further discussion on this schematic design and the construction documentation phases with JLG. So I'd make that motion to approve those three pieces.
All right, I'm going to just break it down. So we do have, so we have, we'll call it 5.4, we'll call it A, B, C, D, and E. So I'll just read it, I'll just say A, which is approve the community base, just as you mentioned, we'll call that A, then approve the site master plan, we'll call that C, and D, approve the title, transfer the title. So we got a motion to approve 5.4, A, C, and D. Do we have a second?
I second.
We got a second from Ms. Osowski. Further discussions on A, C, and D?
So E is not E, is that C, number 2?
I have the, I'm sorry, which one are you referencing? Okay, so on the staff recommendation, do you have that, can you pull up the thing there? You can see on the staff recommendation. I'll show it to you right there. Oh, no, you just had it for a moment. There you go, right there. So I'm counting. Oh, geez. There you go. So it'd be A, B, C, D, and E. All right. All right, you good with that? All right, so we got a motion to approve items A, C, and D. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-1 with Osowski dissenting. All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the schematic design as the staff recommendation.
All right, we got to, do you want to include the design development? Are you including the other two items or just that one item, Mr. Friedolfs?
The other items as well.
All right, so we got a motion then to approve, which would be B and E.
I'll second that.
We got a motion, we got a second from, so we got a motion from Mr. Friedolf, second from Ms. Berg. Now I'll open that up for further discussion. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first.
Go ahead, Ms. Osowski,
Since
please.
no one is volunteering. I just think that what we've been presented is a lot out of our price range, and I think that our taxpayers, deserve the facilities that they voted on, but maybe at not such an extravagant price point, so.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Osowski. Ms. Berg?
Okay.
Lunsky.
Too many Trishas up here. Ms. Lunsky, please, and pardon me.
So I have had a lot of meetings about this week, and as much as I really want to approve the schematic design, I just feel like we can bond 90 at this time. Hopefully we can bond 100. It terrifies me to figure out where that extra 40 possible million could come from, and what else would be cut. I'm obsessed with the windows in this building, that we're having windows that we have to come up with very expensive shades to cover those windows and architecture elements so the light doesn't distract. I think there's so many things that could be cut, and I think we could keep the pool, we can keep the pickleball, both pools, the turf facility. I just think we need to skinny down the budget to something we're more comfortable with.
Maybe Mr. Davidson can just speak to that point as we go through, there he is. As we go through design development, I mean, I'm expecting the value engineering only to be kicking off. I guess I didn't expect that to be done with schematic design. So maybe you can speak to some of those as we, ultimately get further down the process here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next phase of design is called design development, and that's really what it is. It's really to develop the design. There is a whole lot of refinement that has to happen. The best way I like to kind of picture this is like a funnel, is that we're constantly going around and refine until we really get to that fine point. And design stops at design development.
So we still have a whole nother 17 weeks of going through this and refining and find other value analysis ideas to really make sure that we have the right value in there, whether that be the architecture, whether that be the program, whether that be the structure, whether that be some of the mechanical systems. There are still things that we can do to right size that, to get that down. And so the goal is always to take where we're at today and to continue to refine that and get down to the most absolute that still provides the value in which the facility needs to succeed.
I just struggle saying, yes, go ahead for the 140 million to have both pools, the pickleball. I just don't think right now we can afford that. We can bond 90 million. I would feel comfortable with 90 million, possibly 100 million. We hope interest rates go down and we can bond 100 million. I just think we need to kind of clean it up before we can pass it. And I understand what you're saying, but I also struggle with 7.1 million for pickleball when the Rusted Center Phase 1 was 7 million. So is this pickleball court laid in gold? It just seems like 7 million for pickleball is a lot of money.
I think the numbers you refined were 5.8, not that
Yeah,
that's
5.8 was the
changing
numbers for
anything on the
pickleball, yeah.
pickleball, but I guess further to her point, we're not approving anything tonight as far as dollar figures of what's going to be spent on it. We're approving the design development. We'll have, and Mr. Phelan, this is a question for you as well. We have ultimately, we're going to have the bids. We're going to be able to decide when we have the numbers. It'll be a lot closer after design development. We'll be able to take a lot of those contingencies and we'll know where they're at. Ultimately, we don't make the final say until this is bid on and we approve those bids. So we're going to have a chance at design development, but also after they bid on the construction documents. Would that be a correct assessment?
And Mayor Buczynski, I think that was the important part when the city council's already approved us bonding up to the $100 million. We intend to come back, Maureen and Mike would only insist on this. There's a reason why we have a AA2 bond rating, because we're fiscally responsible and we do meaningful, real things around here and we don't do frivolous things. And that's the reason why we're the only entity in Grand Forks that could get this project done, because we've always well-planned and been fiscally responsible. So we intend to come back as part of whatever the bids come in with, we'll say up to the $100 million in bonding. There's about a $10 million in cash in the sales tax fund that can go to the project. And then as we've talked, this around $10 million for support infrastructure is coming from all those various funds too that we've gone through. That's this particular project. So it's really a $110 million project. It's $10 million for support infrastructure to serve the L2 Sports Complex and to serve this Children's Museum as part of we move forward. Our intent is when we come back with the financial analysis, like we do everything here every year, is that we're going to come back with a debt service coverage ratio. I think Maureen's goal is to have it at a 2 so that we can even raise, our goal would be to, right now these bonds on the Alaris Center are at our AA3, which is worse than a AA2. Our goal is to go back to the bond market, have Moody's upgrade these bonds actually to a AA2, because we're going to show that we have a better bond coverage and we're going to have a plan to move forward. So if you were concerned about what this bond rating was, when they originally sold these bonds, we're hoping to upgrade these bonds as part of this bond issue. And so whatever we do here is not only to create a great investment in the city of Grand Forks, great quality of life, bring more visitors, more sales tax, more economic growth, but also to have a bond issuance that the bond market will feel strongly about, Moody's will feel strongly about, and we'll make sure we bring everything together on this project, because we take all these things serious, and we're not frivolous folks. We've been at this for a while, and we're not going to bring you a project without a funding strategy that's going to be winnable.
And maybe Ms. Storsa, if you could just highlight some of that. I know I've sat in some of those bond council meetings, having that debt coverage. So if we have debt service coverage of 2.0 or more, that means we're bringing in more than twice the revenue to offset those bonds. That means if you have a $6 million bond payment, you're bringing in $12 million worth of revenue to offset those bonds. But I think they've been really, confident in both of our conservative estimates, but also just in the future of Grand Forks. So, I mean, it's it's really impressive when you sit in these meetings and you hear the bond council just speak of how excited they are for the community, people that don't even live here. But maybe you can highlight, because I know you've worked on the funding for this as well for a year and a half, and maybe you can just speak to some of those items.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, President Sandy, members of City Council. So a lot of, what I can tell you is a lot of time and effort's been, and due diligence, we've been going through these numbers for a very long time. We've been trying to be as fiscally conservative as possible. What I can tell you is we've had conversations with Moody's, bond advisors, as we don't want to harm any of our, good standing with them. We've been very upfront with what's coming. And they always appreciate that you're having these conversations before you actually go to the bond market. We do have very good coverage, and we can show very good history of sales tax collections, which helps this. As Todd said, we are currently a AA3 rating on these bonds. We currently, if the achievable thing to maintain the AA3 bond, I would say, is a 1.75 coverage. To move to that AA2 level, which I'm trying to show that we can prove would be a double coverage, 2 times coverage. When we're looking at this at that $100 million level capacity, if we were to stay flat from this point, so current sales tax collections today, and just hold flat over the next 30 years, we get that 1.75 coverage that we would need to maintain that AA3. What I do believe the scenario that we worked through is that this year and next, to show some growth in that sales tax and then hold flat, we achieve that 2 times coverage. So I think we'll know a lot as we go through these next couple of years, what that capacity and what our comfort level is as far as capacity as it relates to that bond coverage. And as we work through the design and go through the numbers and try to bring those numbers down a little bit, and work through other funding sources as well, as we speak with the other partners to try to help close that gap.
And I'm not worried about your bond. I think you're fully capable. I'm more concerned about the design. I think, I hate to use the word over-design, but at one time, the pickleball was 7.5, and now it's 5.2. Is that what you said?
5.8, yeah. The ceiling was lowered, so originally it had the same ceiling as the main facility, so they lowered the ceiling down. So I believe it's at 28 feet instead of 41, so there's a big cost savings in that volume. Yeah.
I just think, like the big talk right now is the Shot 360 was built for, maybe under 1.5. Like, what is the difference? I think we just need a simpler design. Maybe I don't know anything about pickleball, but.
So I think, Mayor, these are all questions that that you would work on through design development and refine what kind of building that we want. I just want to highlight too, is that we are going to sell bonds for 30 years. And so we need to ensure with whatever we build that it's going to be there a while and not just 30 years. We're building a 50-year building. And so that's what we do as a city of Grand Forks, because we want to make sure that, future generations can enjoy these facilities. But we've talked about, we've talked about pole barns. We've talked about pre-engineered steel buildings. We've talked about precast buildings. We've talked about other steel structures. So these are all the conversations that the design group is going through, the construction manager is going through, about various options that we have to cut various costs in these buildings, yet at the same time make sure we end up with a product that that can be sustained over the coming decades. Those are all details, and we can't expect in schematic design that we're going to have all the detailed design developments. They're going off of square foot averages for various, components to build this. Certainly we can, windows have been a big debate on that, whether we need windows or not. That's probably not going to make up, whether we need $10 million or not. But those are all design elements that we're going to talk about. And just so you know, that those discussions are ongoing. They're going to go on through the process, Councilmember Vian has had many conversations with the design group about looking at various ways that we can build the turf facility that, may save money or may make it more everlasting. So those are ongoing discussions, but we really need to move forward in design development so that we can start to finalize some of those issues.
But if we pass this schematic design, isn't that what goes out for bid then?
The schematic design is all those things that I mentioned. Those are all the component parts that you're allowing to go to design development. All those noted things that I named off, those are all items that we would go to design development. None of that relates to, what the structure is going to be and all those sorts of things. We're going to have a variety of ways that we can move forward with the detailed design, and that's going to come back to not only to the city administration, but to the city council. About these are, 3 ways that we can build the turf facility. These are the various options of cost. Those are going to be all the iterations that are going back to you over the next several months in design development.
Let's see, we got Mr. Friedolfsson. I know Vice President Weigel wanted to go. So Mr. Friedolfsson, please go first.
I just want to kind of address my fellow council members as well. This is low risk. This part of it, this gets it to that next stage where we can keep this ball moving forward. I think we really need to do this. Of course, if the cost is too high, we have to make some hard decisions, but we need to keep this project moving forward. And as it relates to the pickleball portion, this is a community event space. I do get that it's much cheaper to build as President Sandy referred to as a Quonset hut and hand them the keys. I think all sounds great, but this is the understood concept is that this is a complete community event center where people can step outside maybe while their kids are swimming and go play pickleball, or we can watch their kids play lacrosse or soccer. So I think this is very low risk decision today to go forward with this schematic design. And then when we finally get the cost, everyone knows what our bogey is for this project. We will have to make some decisions if the cost is over what we think we can go forward. But if we go forward with not making the schematic design exactly what we want to include in there, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. And when we say, hey, maybe we can't afford a deep pool or afford an instructional pool. So I think now is the time to really move this thing forward and then really just make those next decisions going forward on cost. Thank you.
Mr. Friedolfsson. I see your hands up, Mr. V. I'm going to go to Vice President Weigel, and we'll go to you, Mr. Veen.
I'll be quick. I think the one thing I look at is I love Mr. Grasser back there and David Karenko. But over my last 8 or 9 years, they've always come back and said, this is the engineer's estimate. And many times that estimate is wrong. Not because they're doing bad work, but because it's a competitive bid process. And we've seen estimates or projects come back 5% below, 10% below, 20% below. And I think I even remember one at like 24% below the engineer's estimate. We don't know what this is going to cost. We have good people trying to do their best with giving us a price on what something's going to cost. We don't know. Can you tell me right now what it's going to cost when you bid it out?
No crystal ball. But what we can do is we can do what we know in the industry, what we know in experience, and we know with our construction partners, and give it a really, really good estimate. But we needed to design more. We needed more refinement.
All I'm saying is that we don't know what it's going to cost. So if we start cutting stuff now or go back to the drawing board, how do we know what we're going to get into a project? Let's get the final prices. Let's figure out what it's going to be, move forward today, and then be done when the price comes back. And if it's too high, we can hack off pickleball at that point, or hack off this pool at that point, or make it a 20-foot ceiling so you can't kick a soccer ball that high. We can make changes at that point, but we don't know what it's going to cost right now. We have people's best guess that work in the industry, and that's about it.
All right, Mr. Veen, and then looks like President Sandy will go right after you.
Okay. Well, I got probably 2 or 3 different items I'd like to review, but I would like to start with what was just spoke about. Every step of the way, you start out with the programming phase, you get into schematic design, you go on to, you refine that design in DDs, and then, of course, you put it out for into CD so you can get bids. We will never know what the price is, we have to admit, until we bid the project. I mean, that's just the standard goal, and we got a ways to go before we actually bid it. But also, I think the way we did this project is smart. You're using, you got obviously your designer or designers here, and we have a construction manager who's pricing that out. We talked last week about make sure we're managing contingencies, but we do rely on that expertise. So I like to think that at every phase of the project, it's not perfect, but it is probably about as close as we're going to get because we have the expertise of the team defining that. There are some questions that I continue to see that are problematic. Some of them are larger than others. Some of them I think we need to spend some more time drilling down. As I looked at it, you look at the administration and the lobby. I looked at what that cost was, the square foot, or cost per square foot. That's probably one of the highest cost areas we have in the whole project is that. And I know there's ways that we could look to manage that and bring that down. The aquatics and the mezzanine was good. I think I heard tonight, and I maybe was the only one that was surprised, I always wanted the instructional pool. And Mr. Phelan, I think you said that that's now included is the instructional pool in the project?
Mayor Buchenski and Council Member, I think based upon the feedback, we have incorporated that as part of the base project. It seems like generally everyone agrees that if we're going to build a 50-meter pool, we got to try to find a way to include the instructional pool. And even if there's a gap, we do have partners we're going to have to go back to help close that gap. But at least we want to get that priced out so that we know if we have a gap, what that gap is.
Yeah, and so I think that's really important because I think we have to do that. I think what I want to be able to deliver is the greatest product we can at a reasonable price, at good value, so that we are hitting what the constituents voted for, and we're able to do it in the right way at the right cost. And so my basic question was this, and I'll probably go back to Mr. Phelan on this. You mentioned a number of things, and I appreciate those things that I feel need to be answered. My question is, when is it going to be answered? If we don't answer those questions at schematic, will we then have them answered before we complete DDs and move to CDs? Is that what the intent is in the process?
Mayor Buchenski and Councilmember Revine, that's exactly what the intent is. To move forward and to answer all those detailed questions, because right now we're at too high of an elevation to answer all those detailed questions that you have and everyone else may have. And we do commit to continue to engage with you and the other city council members on the various detailed design elements that will go into the final cost estimate and the final bid amount.
Okay, no, that's very helpful because I think it's logical. I mean, it's pretty much expected that we're going to have questions about it. Each one of us probably come from a different perspective. What is, how is it that we can best do this? But so I feel actually a little bit more comfortable. I don't agree with what we have today, but I probably agree with the process, knowing that at the end of this next phase, we'll all have had opportunity to have input and feedback as a part of the process. I don't know, again, how it is best that the city council as individuals get involved, but I do think the more we can have that involvement politically, I think it'll help expedite the process as we go through. So I have a lot of questions I could answer, but if we have assurance that they're going to be answered in the next phase, I support it. If we don't, then I got a real problem. That's kind of the bottom line for me.
Yep, I think that's great. And I think, having updates throughout this 17-week process, obviously there's ongoing meetings constantly, but having those meetings come back here and having some conversations, I think would be good, whether it's, every 4 weeks, whatever makes sense, you can work that out when you don't need to come back and update something that hasn't changed, but I think the council would appreciate that. President Sandy?
Mayor, if I could just quick respond to that, I agree. I don't think dissecting this at a city council meeting or even a committee meeting is always the most productive. I think somehow we have to be able to sit around the table and do that. And Todd, you invited me to one meeting here a few months back. It seems like having some of that direct access with city council members sitting at the table would be a better way to do that as we go forward. So just keep that in mind.
And I think your team has been more than willing to do that all along, so I think that's great. And I'm
Absolutely.
assuming that'll continue during the next phase.
Absolutely, yep.
All right, President Sandy, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've been pretty clear from my feelings on this project from the beginning that I believe we should set a maximum price on the cost of the facility and have the architects design to that price. I also, like Ms. Lenski, I believe the current facility is over-designed. I think right now, if we capped the architects and engineers, if we capped their payments at the $100 million that we said we were going to build originally, the architects and engineers would dramatically scale it back and try to figure out how to get to that $100 million number. I also believe, being brutally honest, I think that number, whatever it is, should allow for the city to have sufficient reserves to pay the offset of any shortfall in operations from the sales tax, and we shouldn't be forcing another taxing entity to pick up the tab for operations. I'm also a little bit frustrated because the Children's Museum has been getting a lot of bad press around town because they've been the ones coming to the city trying to work on what I think is a great opportunity for us to all be commingled when they're the only ones out there actually working hard and raising funds, and they're directly competing with not only the city of Grand Forks, who's out trying to fundraise for our building, but even Altru, for example, who just recently promoted the fact that they've had their biggest fundraising year ever. The Children's Museum is getting beat up when these big dollar entities are out competing with them for the same dollars. So I think the folks at the Children's Museum should get a whole lot of accolades because the soccer folks aren't out raising funds, the swimming folks aren't raising funds, the pickleball folks aren't raising funds. Nobody who plays lacrosse is out trying to get money for our facility. The one group that's actually out there busting their hump is taking a whole bunch of bad press, and I totally think it's unwarranted. I think to Mr. Phelan's point, we do have a great bond rating, and our bond rating is that great, A, because we have really good finance team, but also because we don't take on projects that we can't afford. And so I think I'm a little bit frustrated because we're paying a design team, to Mr. Dean's point, we're paying a design team and a CMAR, but we're openly saying we're not confident in the pricing that they're providing because, well, it could be 10% overestimated or 20% over. Well, it could be 20% underestimated. I'll point to the fact that in last week's presentation, one of the bullets talks about the August to September 2024 100% schematic design costing estimate period. McGowan Construction Engineers, Blundell and Associates, the city hired third-party estimator, and I'll quote, estimate results came in 20% over the July estimate. However, both estimate totals from both consultants were within 2% of one another. To me, that if their budgets come in the same, it clearly means that the design is driving up the cost. To me, it's very obvious. I do believe that we need to circle back on this. I don't believe that the architects and engineers should be driving the ship. We should be telling them what we want in the facility. We should be getting a utilitarian facility. We should be able to pay for it on our own. That's my opinion, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sandy. All right, any further discussion points? All All right, seeing none, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. So if you want to do a roll call vote, please, Maureen.
Sure.
And this would be to move forward with, make sure I got this right here. Parts A, C, and D have been approved, so this is to move forward with items B and E.
All right, we'll start with Weigel.
Yes.
Wasowski,
No.
Berg,
Yes.
Lensky,
No.
Friedels,
Yes.
Veen,
Yes.
and President Sandy.
Was that a no? I guess I didn't. Is that a no, President Sam? Can hear you.
No, thank you.
Okay, item has passed 4-3. All right. That's all we have for action items. We'll move on to 6 information items.
Statement of changes in cash balance as of August 31st.
All right, thank you. And item 7, approval of minutes and bills.
And 7.1 is the vendor list and engineer's estimate.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the vendors list? We got
As
a
is.
motion as is from Mr. Weigel and a second from Ms. Osowski. Sorry, Vice President Weigel and Ms. Osowski. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
7.2 are your minutes from September 16th and the special city council meeting from September 30th.
Wow, that's impressive. All right, has everyone read the minutes and are content with them? As is from Mr. Weigel, second from Vice President Weigel, and second from Ms. Osowski. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, item 8, citizen comments of the general nature.
You have none?
We're going to sneak by for one night. All right. Well, we'll move on to Mr. Phelan. Any comments, city administrator comments?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, now item 10. As we're wrapping up, mayor and council member comments. Any comments this evening, Ms. Osowski?
Yeah, I have one. I have to say that last week and also this week, what Mr. Sandy said about how the Children's Museum is out there actually trying to fundraise, it really made me look at it in a different light, because they are the only special interest group out there trying to raise their own funds to get their project done. I would like to see, you know, especially with the cost of things, I would like to see maybe some of these other clubs step up and try to support us in our facility. I also have to say that on Saturday, my daughter volunteered at the Children's Museum pop-up exhibit, and I got the chance to go in and check out the different booths, activities. I don't know, there was so much going on there that it was hard to kind of figure out where to go. But I was very impressed with the concepts that I saw there at the Children's Museum. And my daughter said that it was a very nice outcome, and she had a great time volunteering. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Ms. Berg, any comments this evening?
No, thank you.
All right, Ms. Lunsky, any comments? Mr. Friedolf, you still with us? Any comments this evening?
I'm still there. Yep. Nope, nothing. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Veen, any comments this evening?
No comments.
All right, Vice President Weigel.
No, thank you.
All right. President Sandy, you're surviving. I hear you're down in Florida surviving the second phase of the hurricane. So any possible last words if it doesn't work out well?
Yeah, we're grabbing our bags and heading for the hills, but I sure hope everyone has a good time at the UAS Summit this week. It should be the best attended summit yet. Great to have our local businesses, GA and Northrop Grumman, both stepping up and sponsoring, and it should really be a good show. And thanks for planning on being there, Mayor and others.
All right, thank you, President Sandy. And I'll just wrap up with a couple comments. I want to, again, thank everyone that came to be a part of this tonight. It's not often we get so much positivity in these chambers, so I think it's uplifting for all of us. So just want to thank everyone for being here. And we won't keep you here until 8:30 tonight. We'll let you leave here shortly. You can leave whenever you want, actually. But I just want to lastly say, I think, this project is a phenomenal project. It's going to be a showpiece for the community. I don't want to look back at this after the fact and have people 20 years from now say, that's all they could do. That's what they could come up with was this. I think we need to do it right. We got one shot at it. We need to get the most value we can, but we need to do it right. And I think everyone up here would agree, at least on that point. So with that, I'd be looking for a motion to
I move
adjourn.
adjournment.
We got some quick motions from Ms. Osowski and Mrs. Lunsky. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.